Well, folks, here we again for the weekly forecast. Of course, during this last week, we started to see the heat build into the Central Plains. In fact, much warmer than initially forecasted last week as we moved well into the 90s and approached the 100-degree mark in many locations across the state. And of course, most of the precipitation that did fall across the state was associated in north central, northeast Nebraska, as we've seen that trough move across the northern plains last weekend. Outside of that, just an isolated thunderstorm here and there. And then, of course, the front that moved through Thursday basically gave us some light precipitation amounts scattered across the state. So overall, we are looking at a drying trend that is firmly established the last couple of weeks in the Panhandle. And there is some concerns in regards to the lack of moisture, and we do have some chances for that coming up here over this next few days. But before we get to that, I thought I'd bring you up to date on currently what is going on with the Vegetative Health Index. This is a snapshot of conditions across the Corn Belt in relation to historical standards. And so you'll notice a broad area of the eastern, central, and then up into the northern plains is showing these reds and oranges. And essentially what this is doing is looking at the crop back in history for this date and comparing what the satellite is seeing in relation to those. And so if the crop is behind normal, as it is this year, a lot of times you will see these reds appear, even if there isn't a drought stress, simply because the crop has not matured, is several weeks behind, and in comparison, it should be much greener and much taller than it is presently. Now, as we get toward pollination, what the reverse generally happens is that these areas start to show unusual blue, showing very good health, as the crop is in pollination compared to where it would be normally several weeks ahead, and it'd be going through the grain fill process and starting the slow process toward drying down. So its greenness index would be much smaller. But inside this area, there are a couple pockets I want to mention. Northeast Missouri, southwestern Iowa, west central Illinois is showing a significant drying trend, as well as a pocket in the Michigan-Indiana border region. So if we do not see the precipitation expected this weekend, we would expect to see some drought monitor expansion as we go into next week's forecast. To our right, this is comparison to last year in terms of vegetative health index, and you can see we are well behind ratings of last year. Again, this crop is much farther behind, can easily catch up, but if we go through a period of dryness and warm temperatures, we may see this actually intensify. So as we look at the upper air pattern for today, we are seeing that big ridge building in, so we expect hot conditions this entire weekend. And as we go into tomorrow, those conditions won't change much, except for this trough in the Pacific Northwest starting to make its way into the Central Plains, which may touch off some scattered thunderstorm activity during the late afternoon hours across the Panhandle, and some of that will progress into eastern Nebraska as we get into Monday morning. And then we will start to see a piece of that energy ejecting out into the Central Plains on Monday, generating thunderstorm activity during the daytime hours across the eastern half of the state, lesser chances across the western portion of the state. And as we get into Tuesday, now the system is over the central Nebraska region and is expected to cut off. So we will see precipitation breaking out statewide, with the heaviest precipitation in central and eastern Nebraska, and a good strong possibility of severe thunderstorms. Total moisture with this system is projected to be up between 1 inch and 1.25 inches across the Panhandle, approaching 2.5 inches across northeast Nebraska and 1.75 inches in southeastern Nebraska. As we go into Wednesday, the trough moves over to the Great Lakes region, so we see the ridge building back in, and that continues the process in Thursday. And then as we get into Friday, once again, that ridge is in place. So we are going to go right back to the warm conditions as that piece of low energy drops toward the southeastern United States. So if we take a look from next Thursday to the following Tuesday, that ridge is firmly in place, so we're going to stay well above normal. And in terms of precipitation, the dry pattern from the Central Plains starts to push and extends all the way to the eastern seaboard.